Hey everybody, welcome to Hit Rewind. This episode we're discussing the first three Prophecy films. I'm Michael, that's Kersey on the other side.
How's it going?
Um, is it wrong for us to skip 4 and 5? I don't feel it's necessary because it's not part of the core story.
I was shocked there was a third one, to be honest. I don't know how far you can take this concept or
Yeah.
like what the first movie does, which it does really well, but you can't really translate it into the multiple.
Yeah, it's like 4 and 5 I've seen, but I don't remember jack shit. I know they're not connected to the first three, like at least the core story. Here's the thing: is I don't think Prophecy was ever planned as a trilogy, but I think they did an okay job of making it a trilogy. Like 2 and 3 are more connected than they are to 1. So yeah,
Yeah, like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I like with the first one, it felt like it was a one and done, and then they were surprised by how much money it made, and like, oh shit! But I think 2 and 3 were like, hey, let's make plans for a trilogy, like the way we did with Dust Till Dawn.
Yeah, those ones worked well together as a continuation. It kind of, but they felt more like a TV version of a movie, kind of like how the Terminator Chronicles
Yeah,
doesn't really feel like a Terminator movie, but that's kind of like the vibe that I got.
and these are never big budget movies. I think the first one was $6 million, and it was a negative pickup for Dimension Pictures back when they didn't have much money, and they just threw it on a Labor Day weekend. And I just remember like we all thought the trailer was really cool, and then they were shocked when it had the biggest opening ever for a Labor Day weekend, and that's weird to think like $9 million, whatever, was a record breaker.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting film that talks about religion in a way that's very different, unique, and has its own style than a lot of other movies do. And even when you're watching 2 and 3, which don't really feel like the first movie, you can definitely sense the style is still there.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it helps is that they had the same cinematographer and I
Yeah,
believe the same editor, so they kept the look and the pace the same. And yes, they have Christopher Walken for all three of them, so that helps too. Instead of it feeling like just another generic sequel, like the way they did with Mimic, where it's just another bug and a whole new cast.
yeah, yeah. The thing that I really enjoy about the first one is that it does kind of play on, I don't want to say religious anxieties, but there is a sort of uniqueness to how it talks about heaven and hell. In that, like, really, when you think about heaven and hell as a concept, it is actually really daunting and frightening in a way that I don't think a lot of people really talk about. So, like, the idea of angels existing, people see angels as like this positive thing, but they're terrifying. Like
Yeah,
throughout the Bible and history, they've done some horrendous things to people, and they're incredibly powerful. And if they don't like you, that's terrifying. So I like that they kind of play on that. I also like that heaven and hell is more complicated than we would think. Like, because like the first movie is all about trying to send the soul of a war criminal to heaven. And the thinking about that idea of like it's a strategic move to keep this horrible person in paradise with you is really creepy.
yeah, it's because they think that by stealing his soul, who was like this fucking freak show, like Hitler level, like war crime kind of guy, and that they can use his ideas in the battlefield in the war for heaven. And Eric Stoltz is one of the good angels or whatever, and he has to steal the soul, hide it or whatever to keep it from Gabriel and his army. It was a very I just never seen anything that really approached heaven and hell like this. Around this time, though, Grant Morrison over at DC Comics did introduce a character, Zuriel, I think it was, and he taps more into like the darker elements of what those stories were.
Yeah, and there are other comics, like I'm going back reading some Constantine. This was like 84 to 87.
Yeah,
And they definitely had very dark tones about like what heaven and hell looks like. And like Constantine does not like Satan, obviously, but he also hates God. And they kind of explore those themes of like, if the Bible was real, no, you probably wouldn't like God either. And so it's interesting to see it in movie form.
yeah. Well, and I think DC is known for tapping into that kind of stuff. It always seems like Marvel's afraid of it. And Prophecy feels like a Vertigo comic if it was like the mid-90s. You know, something that would fit with Preacher.
Yeah, definitely. Like the action scenes are a little cheesy. It definitely has comic book vibes in there.
Yeah. Oh, that part where, and it was edited, I feel like it was edited purely for the trailer. It was like, you, and then it shows Christopher Walken, Will, and Christopher Walken, not hurt her, and then it blows up the trailer when I was like, you made that for the commercial.
Yeah.
But I think he gives a really fantastic performance, and I think people forget that for a long time, Christopher Walken was mostly cast as a villain.
Yeah.
And then also,
definitely has that face and that vibe.
Yeah, and then they dyed his hair black. But I think it's really interesting, like the evolution of his character too. But scarier than Gabriel in any way whatsoever is fucking Viggo Mortensen as Lucifer. Holy shit! Seductive and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, incredibly charismatic, which is something you don't want in Satan.
Yeah, but then he threaten Virginia Madsen. He's like, I could fill your mouth with your own feces or whatever and let you burn for 1,000 years or something. Yeah. So, yeah, he's so unique in his approach to Satan, too, because you see a lot of portrayals, and none of them feel right. They're either like, oh, this is like some campy shit, or he's really charming. This one, it just felt like, yeah, I imagine that's what Satan would be like.
And it's really good. I really enjoy that. Like, he says very little. It's just mostly in just how he looks at people. It's just terrifying. Like he looks at people as if it's food.
Oh yeah, he's just something that he needs to consume to take and own and destroy.
One thing I was kind of confused about, though. So why did Satan kill Gabriel at the end? Why did he not want the soul?
Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know if you can you, if you're Satan, can you consume the soul of another angel?
I have no idea.
I was like, it looked like he just ate his face or something, whatever, and then snapped his neck and took him down to hell with him. And then, of course, in the second one, he takes him out because Gabriel wants a war in heaven. And he thinks that he's going to create a whole other hell, and there's not enough room for two hells.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So he didn't want him to win, so that's why he was helping Virginia Madsen and Elias Koteas save that girl, whatever. But then in the second one, he realizes, oh, he can't even tolerate him down in hell. He's such a pain in the ass. He kicks his ass out of hell, which is kind of cool.
That's funny.
And then, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
And then the second one, they go in a different direction where Gabriel's trying to stop the descendant, the child of an angel and a human, which has never happened before. And then I guess that would give birth to a warrior that could actually stop the war in heaven. And so he wants to stop it at any means whatsoever. He really hates humans, by the way. He keeps calling them monkeys like every 5 seconds.
Right, yeah, that's kind of basically the gist of Gabriel's view on humanity is that, like, we are sinful and we are just like these simple creatures. Obviously, because angels are incredibly powerful in this movie series, and I guess in the Bible too. But anyway, like the way that they view humans is like wait, you're giving them the choice to not believe in you, and then people do. Like these people are stupid. Like they don't understand what's going on. And so he's like, why would you want to make a child with one of these creatures? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, basically, you're trying to get humans into heaven, which he doesn't want. He doesn't like the competition. He doesn't like having to share God's grace with humans. Yeah, and it's just a big sticking point for him and his followers. I kind of wish the movie was a little bit bigger budget so that you could see more into his army. It's so low budget. You really only see Eric Stoltz and like one henchman of Christopher Walken's, and so it doesn't get really elaborate. They do really cool effects though in the sky, where they show, I don't know if they use miniatures or what they did or stop motion animation to show like visions of angels who have fallen, now they're skeletons, and the war that they would have in heaven or they did have in heaven.
Yeah, I think
we've praised the first movie, I think, to a lot. It's an excellent movie. Definitely check it out. It still holds up pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is the bones are there because Gregory Wyden also created Highlander and Backdraft, and in both of those franchises that he built a huge world for you to explore and a lot of mythos, and that's what he does with The Prophecy.
Yeah, he does it very well, yeah.
It's kind of a shame that's the only movie that he directed because while he produces 2 and 3, I think it was just in paycheck only. I don't really think he had much quality control over it. I'm kind of shocked that he didn't try to guide the franchise to its sequels.
Yeah, because the biggest problem I have with 2 and 3 is that it's just the Terminator.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. And the second one was intended to be in theaters, and then Dimension got cold feet, and apparently it's a really chopped up mess. If you look, it's only 82 minutes long, but it's supposed to be way longer than that, and then they decided just to throw it on video. For a direct-to-video release, it's pretty damn good. For a theatrical release, I would say it's just okay.
I mean, it's fairly solid. I had some issues with it. It's definitely not as good as the first one, but I thought they built on a lot of weaknesses from the first movie. They added, more lore. There's a lot more interesting new concepts to explore. There was more going on with like Gabriel's slave that he would create, where like So I guess I should back up. So in the first movie, Gabriel has the ability to bring someone who's who's basically in purgatory and bring their souls back to their body. And he wouldn't let them die until they fulfilled whatever purpose that he wants them done.
Right, and he keeps bringing up the fact that he can't drive, which is weird to me. Teacher, you're an angel. Teach yourself how to drive. It would have been interesting if they just didn't have the ability, like there's something wrong with their hands, or their feet or something, they couldn't do it. There's never an explanation like his body or his brain couldn't comprehend how to drive. It's like, give yourself 5 minutes and figure it the fuck out.
Well, actually, I think there is something in the Bible about how they can't touch the earth or something like that, which is why they do that weird sit thing.
Okay. I mean, he does walk though. He does walk on. I mean, not to be a joke, walking. He does walk on ground though. So it would have been more interesting if he just floated all the time. But of course, they didn't have the money for that.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's because he's wearing shoes, so he's not technically touching the ground. But then again, he could just wear shoes and drive. So I don't know what the reason is.
You know what's funny is I just remembered. I don't know if it's because of the crow or because of the prophecy, but I used to sit like that all the time in theater class. I used to sit on. So, stage boxes or whatever for scenes or whatever, I used to sit on the edge of it like that. And I gotta tell you, as a guy in his 40s, there's no way in fucking hell I would do it now.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's a good look, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the people that he would bring back for whatever purpose that he wants. In the first movie, there was 2 people, but there wasn't really anything about them. It's usually played for a joke. But what I really liked about the second one was that the person they brought back is an actual character. We know them before they die a little bit, and then they actually have wants and desires and goals
that
are counter to what he wants. So it's interesting to see that power play.
Yeah, they're not just straight up minions or brain dead zombies or something like that. They have everything they had before, personality wise. It's just they're technically dead.
Yeah, and usually he gets people who want to die, so that way he can have that power over them.
Yeah, because
he's
trying to keep them alive.
Yeah, and so but what's interesting about the second one is that his minion is someone who's basically calling his bluff, where it's well, then just go ahead and then I'm just not going to do what you want. How about that? Then what are you going to do?
Yeah, and then she does fuck with him and gives the star a chance to get away. And I thought I guess the tight budget, the special effects are still pretty lacking. A movie's low budget when there's a showdown in an empty warehouse or some sort of industry manufacturing thing.
Or they show the angel's wings in the shadow.
Yeah.
So you don't actually see it. Yeah.
What's funny is I kind of like that insinuation because sometimes what's that movie where they're in a gas station or a diner or whatever, and it's the angel and he has to protect it from a bunch of demons. What the fuck's that called? Legion? Have you seen that movie? Paul Bettany?
No, but that also is just a Terminator ripoff.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, the wings in that one are impressive, but I almost rather they were just, insinuated with, this much more subtle imagery.
Dogma did it really well, but they also were so heavy that they permanently fucked up the backs of the actors who had to wear them, so that wasn't good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think the second one is pretty good. The third one, I think... Do you have anything else to say before the second one, before we go to the third?
Not really. It's pretty good. It is basically a Terminator ripoff, but I do like kind of the twist at the end which is going to be very important to the third one, which is that Gabriel is kind of cursed with mortality. And so he has to live on Earth as a human, which is kind of his biggest fear.
Yeah, taking away his power and his menace and punish him with the one thing that he hates the most. And so, yeah, that leads us into the third one. I think what drags down the third one so much, especially in the first 10, 15 minutes, is it's really poorly shot. And its pacing is so slow. And it's not until they get out of the morgue, I think, is that when it finally picks up. What did you think of the villain in the third one?
I don't remember him at all, to be honest.
So
Is
I've
it
actually...
a little forgettable?
Yeah, it's Vincent Spano, who briefly in the early 80s had a chance at being a star. He was in a couple of Coppola movies and stuff like that. And he is pretty fucking bland. There's not a whole lot to him in this performance. It almost feels like he's trying to do the exact opposite of Christopher Walken, who's very animated in this one and kind of having a fun time, I think.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell Christopher Walken was only on this one for probably a week. Like, they just shot around his availability. Not the way the first two...
I would be shocked if it was more than 5 days.
Yeah. But I don't know if it was on purpose or it's just the way he acts. But I just thought his villain just didn't have anything. I wasn't entertained. It just kind of a slog.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem. Again, I think it's, it is, again, it's basically Terminator 2 at this point. Oh yeah, I guess we should kind of explain what.
Oh right, yes. So
movie, right?
Yeah,
that kind of leads into because these are connected. We really should kind of explain. So basically, what happens in the second movie is that an angel impregnates a woman, and Gabriel's trying to kill the child because he doesn't want humans and angels to be connected in any way. But there's kind of a sect of angels who view this as a prophecy to be fulfilled to end the war between heaven and hell, right?
Right.
So they win in the end. Gabriel gets turned into a human, and that kind of leads to the third movie where now the kid's grown up to be 16 to 18, somewhere in that range. And the sect of heaven that's more in line with what Gabriel believes is trying to kill this kid. Well, actually, they do kill this kid in the first few minutes of the movie.
Right.
And
Brad Dourif.
The consequences of that.
Brad Dourif in a completely thankless cameo.
Yes. And so now there's the new Gabriel or whatever is hounding this kid, trying to kill him by tearing out his heart, and because that's the only way you can kill an angel, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Well, what the problem is that he's basically just doing a Terminator impression, and that works when you're a robot. That doesn't work when you're an angel. It's just not as interesting.
Yeah. I thought there'd be more passion in his performance, and I just kept thinking he's like, let's go, all right, hey, where is he? Like that kind of stuff. I was like, yeah, it's just Terminator clone. I do like the fact that it seems like 90% of the budget was spent on this fucking wire work stunts. The choreography in the fight sequence is better than the first two.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But I just don't know. It just feels like it was like a last, what do we got left to scrape that bottom of the barrel,
Yeah, but here's the problem. The other major problem of the third one is that all of the interesting things that you could do with Gabriel is not shown at all. So by the third movie, Gabriel finally understands what it means to be a human because he's had to live with being a human for the last 16 or so years.
Uh-huh.
But we don't see that transformation. He just comes into the movie like the good guy. But we don't I would love to see his journey.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
To understand humanity.
Yeah, all he did is show a brief scene. Yeah, there's a brief scene when he was a child or something. He comes to not necessarily protect him, but he's just there to block whatever was happening.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense either. Because, Gabriel was on Earth like for what 3 years when in that scene, right?
Maybe.
So like,
yeah.
like he basically has been around before the Earth was created, and so like for what 2,000 years he had like this firm belief that was anti-human, and then 3 years on Earth, and suddenly he's like loves humanity. It's just that they gloss over that a lot.
Yeah, they really booted that up fast. Like, haha, everybody's great now, awesome. There's no like reluctantly trying to do something good and then slowly realizing, hey, this ain't too bad. You know, some sort of journey that was completely skipped. Do you think it's absurd that the little girl from the first movie shows up in the third movie, and it literally was shot 5 years after the first movie, and you just see like, yeah, she's only aged 5 years, but the kid, and then the kid was actually older than her, and I was like, no, this doesn't. They should have got a different actress.
Yeah.
That was absurd. Yeah, I think there's a lot left on the table they could have done. It's so weird that the guy that directed this, he was Wes Craven's go-to editor, and he went and did like Drive Angry and My Bloody Valentine remake. You think there'd be more energy and craziness to it, but it all depends on what the money allowed.
Yeah, that's just kind of the unfortunate reality of it. Is like there was a lot of really interesting things that they could have done, and I don't know if a studio got scared about like what a potential third movie would look like, but it just seems like any decision they made was like to make it more digestible. It just made it worse.
Yeah. What is exactly the premise? There's another angel who wants to create another hell or something like that. Who was the guy they kept seeing in the visions and he had to show down with at the end? I didn't get that.
Oh, I thought that was Satan that he was fighting.
So just okay. Well, I guess they couldn't get Vigo, but I was just trying to figure that out because I kept thinking that they said something about it's another hidden angel who wants to create an alternate hell, and I'm like, so just another Gabriel? I don't understand. So
yeah,
and that's why he was born, so he could finally finish off the war. Well, the war was finished. I can't remember what 4 and 5 were about, so I'm curious if those are connected or there's just a whole new story around the angels and Earth's, Earthlings fighting. I can't talk. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you could do for perspective 4 and 5. I don't know what that would look like.
Out of curiosity, if they're streaming, I guess I'll just watch them, but I don't know.
I would just read the synopsis, probably.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Okay. So that is it. I don't think we'll go talk about it. The first 3 are just the ones you really need to talk about, and I guess that's it.
Yeah, I would obviously high recommend 1. Definitely recommend number 2, and maybe number 3 if you're really interested in the second one.
Yeah, I mean 3 just wraps things up, so I guess you might as well. I mean, they're so short. Seriously, like the first one's a full on movie. It's nearly 2 hours. The second and third one are like 80 minutes. You could just pack them together if it's this one epic movie.
Yeah, I was expecting to I was like planning my day around watching those. It was like, I'm going to spend like 4.5 hours. It was done, and I was like, all right, well, I got a lot of time on my hands now.
All right, so that is it, everybody. Thank you for listening, and have a good one.